I'm going to start sharing my screen now. So all right, you guys should see the record info sign-in page. Again, thanks Fred for the introduction. My name is Dave Charbonneau. I will try and speak slowly and clearly, but that is not my strong suit. So go ahead and message one of, Amanda or Rich Canino here, and they'll tell me to slow down or speak clearly. What I will be demonstrating today is the user interface for the system. There are also data services available, but they are not very much fun to look at, so it doesn't make for a very good demonstration. So today we're focusing on the user interface, and to do this I have three separate roles. The first is the generator, the second is the transporter, and the third is the receiving facility, or TSDF as we like to call it. And I'll try and explain what I'm doing during each step so it's clear, but I'll be jumping between roles a lot, so if it gets confusing, let me know and we'll clarify. So the first thing I'm going to do is log in as a generator. So I tried to create my accounts so that the role I was logging into was clear. And so while this is logging in, let me say I am not a has-waste guy, I'm an IT guy. So if anything I do is technically incorrect from a hazardous waste perspective, I apologize in advance. This is for demonstration purposes only, right? So this is to give you an idea of what the system can do, not that you can't put diesel fuel in a burlap sack, which I may try and do. So demonstration purposes only, I'm not actually shipping anything, and I will probably fill it out incorrectly from a waste perspective. So we've already populated my account with the Capital Research Equipment site. This is one of the test sites we use as a generator. So I'll go ahead and click on my site and then e-manifest. So I've logged in as the industry user for the generator, and you can see my account in the upper right hand corner says generator. That helps me remember which role I've signed in as, right? I have no pending manifests, and I have a couple that we've already done, and we have no paper only manifests. So the first thing I'm going to do is hit create new manifest, and I'm going to leave it as draft. So in draft, only I can see it right now. When I move it to pending, then it will be shared with the other companies on the manifest. So the transporter and the receiving facility can see it when it's moved to pending, but for right now it's in draft, so it's just me. All right, the first thing I have to do is fill out the emergency response phone number. 703 is the area code for Virginia. All right, and the contact phone. Okay. I don't have an extension. The next thing I need to do is to add a transporter. All right, since I'm picking another of the demonstration sites we use for testing, and it should come up right there. So this is all the information for my transporter, the Tyree organization. So I'll save that, and now I've added a transporter. And I can add another transporter. I can add as many transporters as I need. For this demonstration, I'm only using one transporter, but know that the system can accommodate more than that. All right, next I'm going to add a destination facility. And this is the receiving facility that is going to handle this waste. So that all looks good. Now I will add waste lines. Right? So is Question 9A, is this a hazardous material? Is it hazardous? Yes. Is this an EPA hazardous waste? This is asking, is this a waste? If we were transporting gasoline, we would say it's hazardous, but that's not a waste, that's usable product, right? But for e-manifest, this is hazardous and it's a waste, so those are both yes. And if this contained any PCBs, I could say yes here, but I'm not going to. All right, so I will have this build out the DOT description as we fill it out. The proper shipping name, tars and liquid. All right, and I'm going to ask this to be included when it builds out the DOT description. I'm going to say this is a packing group 2 because I don't know any better. And again, for demonstration purposes only, I'm the IT guy, not the has waste guy. That's why I don't know any better. So build out the description, and you'll see the DOT description is filled in. Now, if I want to, I can edit this. So this is fully customizable after it builds it out for you. But if you don't want to edit it, it's good the way it is, then you can just move on. All right, container information. So we're going to say we have 15 metal drums, 1,000 kilograms of tar. Okay, the hazardous waste code. P. So you can see as I type in the search field, it narrows it down for me. So, and that is I'm not going to try and pronounce that. It's a federal waste code and not a Virginia waste code, so I'm not going to include anything there. The reason it picked Virginia is because the generator and the receiving facility and the transporter are all in Virginia. If I were to cross state borders, the other state, the receiving or generating facility in those states would come up. But since I'm keeping it all within Virginia, only one state showed up here. Okay, special handling instructions. Not for consumption. All right. The management method code. We're going to say this is storage. And here it asks me if I want to provide this information for that biennial report. So if I say yes, it asks me the source code, form code, but I don't want to do that right now. And again, for those generators that are subject to the biennial reporting requirements, this can help you out when reporting time comes, but I'm not going to do that right now. So I've added a waistline, and here is all the information we just added. Any special handling instructions for this manifest, we can include it here. This is an editable field. Again, you can put whatever you want in here. And then the special handling instructions from the waistline. If I realize this is not correct, I can always edit it here, and it takes me back through basically the add a waste process. But that is good to go. Adding reference information. So I know a purchase order number, a customer number with receiving facility, anything like that. You could put that information in here. So, this is again an editable field for to support the movement of the waste and to make it easier for both the generator and the receiving facility to track, kind of ease their paperwork process. Okay? I'm going to go ahead and hit save. So all the information is saved, but it's still in draft, so only I can see it. I'm going to now move it to pending. That means when I save it as pending, the transporter and receiving facility will also be able to see it. Now all the required fields are highlighted with a red asterisk. So I will go through and just scan and make sure that I have accounted for everything. Yes, I agree that everything looks good. And I'm going to hit save. Okay. That is as far as the generator can take it at this point. So the next step in the process, now that the transporter and the receiving facility have just received the notification that, hey, you have a pending manifest, I will log out. The next action is by the receiving facility. They have to basically say, yes, we can handle this waste, and we are prepared to essentially pay the fee for processing this manifest. So I'm now going to log in as the TSDF or the receiving facility. All right, the receiving facility is MXI Environmental. I have also requested permission for Capital Research Equipment, which is a generator I just showed you, in case I want to act as a broker function, but I'm not going to do that today. I'm just going to act as the TSDF. So I, again, click into eManifest from My Sites, and now I see right here, Capital Research Equipment, 2:22 p.m. Eastern Time, is pending. So it's waiting for my action. So I click the Edit button. I review it. Yep, this all looks good. It's coming here. This is the waste. Yes, I'm able to receive that waste. I have the ability to store it, capacity, all those good things. So I will go back up and move it to scheduled. So when I hit save, it will be ready for transport. So let me go back down to the bottom. All this information is good. And let me hit save. Now's when I have a choice. I am doing this as a fully electronic manifest because I'm using the user interface, the front end. So this is a fully electronic manifest. The hybrid functionality where it starts on paper and then goes to an electronic manifest, or the on behalf of, that is going to be coming in the future. For today's purposes, we are demonstrating fully electronic. Okay, so I'm going to hit save, and it tells me that this has been saved and is now moved to scheduled. So the transporter and generator can take their next step. Okay, I'm going to log out as the receiving facility because I've done what I needed to there. Here's where we have a choice. We could log in as the generator and sign that manifest, basically saying, this is what's sitting on the loading dock, it is good to go. Or we could sign in as the transporter, review the shipment, make any changes now that I'm on site as the transporter, and then log in as the generator and sign after the transporter has approved it, right? That's what I think we'll do just for this demonstration. So I'm logging in as the transporter. And again, here is my site. I'm the Tyree Corporation now. The e-manifest. All right, so here's our manifest, Capital Research Equipment. It's going to MXI Environmental. It's scheduled, so I could take a look at it. I have shown up on site, and let me see what is on the dock waiting for me. because the generator has not signed it yet, I can make changes. Like, for example, if I get to the dock and say, wait, you say 15 drums, there are only 13 drums sitting here. And they say, yeah, you're right, we did an estimate. I can now, now that I see that, I can go in and make changes. Prior to it being signed by the generator, I can make changes as the transporter because we're both on site. So I come down to the waistline, I hit edit, and I say there are only 13 drums. And I hit save and return, and I save that. Okay. Now everyone's been notified that a change has been made, and we can track. It was created by the last change. Unfortunately, there's only one of me, so you'll see my name a lot, so it doesn't really, in the last updated by, if it were different people, you'd see different people's names, but it's only me. So I was the last person that just made that change. So as the transporter, I have agreed to what I'm picking up. Now I'm going to log in as the generator again and sign it. All right, here's my site. Go back to eManifest. And here's the scheduled one. Okay. Oh, yep, there are only 13 drums on the dock. It says 13 here. I apologize for the error when I filled out the manifest. I was, in a hurry. So now that the transporter and the generator agree, I can review and sign. This is part of our Chromair signing process. So I go through, verify everything is indeed correct, because now I'm signing it. I certify under penalty of law that everything I'm saying is true and accurate, and I know that there are violations if I don't do this correctly. I accept that as part of the Chromair signing process. I enter my password. I answer the verification question, and now I can sign that manifest. So the generator has just signed it, and the generator is done. Now I will log out, and I will log back in as the transporter. Now that the generator is signed, I'm still standing on the dock with him. I can say, yep, I agree. Go back into eManifest. This is now the scheduled manifest. I go in here, pull up that manifest. Yes, I agree. 13 drums. Review and sign. Okay, I'm reviewing it. Now, as the transporter, I'm signing to accept that waste, and I have the same certification. It's the same Chromair process. I accept that. The same process as applied to the generator now applies to the transporter, and the transporter has signed. So the transporter is now in possession of the waste. They've signed the manifest. So I'm going to log out. The transport is happening at the speed of light, so we are now the receiving facility, having just received that that trailer of 13 drums of tar. So I'm logging in as the receiving facility, MXI Environmental. I click on eManifest. Now, it's not under scheduled anymore because I'm signing it as ready for signature, right? So it's basically saying, I have now received it, it's ready to be signed. So this is the manifest I just created right here. It is now in the received column because I'm signing that I'm receiving it. And I go in and review the manifest. Okay, if in the process of reviewing the manifest, I say, wait a minute, why did you guys put 13 drums? There are actually 15 after all, or say there's 10. If there's any change, any discrepancy, any difference between what was signed and what is arriving at the receiving facility, they can change it here. So they do have the ability to update it. So we'll say, they miscounted and there are actually 14. In addition, here is where we can do discrepancies. Discrepancy in residue information. So we're going to say the type was incorrect. We're going to say, after I tested it, need to add corrosive and ignitable. And there are no container residues. So I would go back up to here, and so it is still P002, but now I need to add D001 and D002 in addition to P002, because it's corrosive, ignitable, and that. Okay? So I've marked the discrepancy, I've annotated why there's a discrepancy, and the rest of it looks good. I will save that. And now I am ready to sign it. So I will hit review and sign as the TSDF receiving facility. I look over everything. Yes, 14 drums. Special handling instructions, no PCB information. Here's the discrepancy. It was a type discrepancy. I added corrosive and ignitable. And I'm still storing it. Everything else looks good. Okay, so now I am ready to sign. Okay, the same disclaimer as before. I accept it. I followed the same Chromair process. And I sign the manifest. Okay, now it will show up as signed complete. So I can take a look at it, and if I want, I can either email it. I can see it was created by, last updated by, and the date, and we track the time. We don't display it, but we track it in the database for full auditing purposes. And I can print the official copy of the manifest, which shows up as a PDF document in the bottom of your web browser. So here's the manifest document that we all know and love, with 14 barrels, 1,000 kilograms of tar, and in the next release, it will show you that it was electronically signed by who and when. We didn't have that for the print feature this time. that is, I've seen the mock-ups for it. It should be coming very shortly, but when you print out a manifest, you'll be able to tell that it was electronically signed. And so we've seen the manifest. All right, the other thing, well, before I move on, so I've shown you how to create a fully electronic manifest using our user interface. I've edited the manifest as the transporter prior to the generator signing it. I've signed it as the generator and the transporter. I've noted discrepancies as the receiving facility, and I've edited the quantity received to be in line with what actually arrives at my facility. And then I have signed that as the receiving facility. The last thing I want to show you guys is the site manager functionality. So the site manager is the role that basically can oversee the accounts at a given facility. So under Tools, User Maintenance. I am a site manager for MXI, so I can go in and see my users. So these are all the people that have user rights to this particular test site. You can see me as TSDF. Here's Scott Christian, our developer. So I can see, you know, his full information. I'm going to go ahead and look at the permissions that he has. He is an e-manifest preparer. He does not have any biennial report. He's not a site manager, and he is not on my Richter ID. I'm going to go ahead and change that. I'm going to modify the permissions. So I do not, if I were going to make Scott a site manager, I'd move that to active, but I don't want to do that. What I want to do is have him as a viewer for the biennial report and a certifier for eManifest. So I've edited those permissions, and now Scott has new roles. It's pretty much that easy. I can also see Scott's request history. So, you know, the requested date, these are the site permissions I just changed. The initial request came in at 10 o'clock this morning. So, you know, we can see Scott's full history here, which is actually very helpful. We know exactly who did what. So if you have a question as to, hey, how did you get approved for it, you can come in here and see how that happened. All right. But since, you know, maybe Scott moved on to another position, moved on to another company, I am just going to take away all his permissions, and now he does not appear in my users anymore because I removed him. So you'll see Scott Christian 12 is no longer here. He is removed. If he wants to come back, if he decides that he wants to come back to my company, then he can submit a new user request. It will come to me as a site manager, and I can approve that request, and he can have those permissions again. So that is, and I still don't have any pending requests. So that is site manager functionality at a very high level in a nutshell. It's pretty intuitive, but yeah. So I think thus concludes the system demonstration.